Nobody just has a beautiful life, a beautiful diamond life, a beautiful relationship without having that forging of steel through the fire. It's a must. It's a prerequisite. Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Diamond Life Mentor with your host, Balazs Debicardos. This episode, I want to dive into the dark side of creating your diamond life, because so often we never really talk about, what are the sacrifices that are needed in order to actually break free from a life of mediocrity. That is what most people just accept for their life. And there's some really startling, shocking statistics out there that we often don't discuss enough, in my opinion. And one of those is that only 3% of the population of human beings all over the world actually focus on improving who they are, improving themselves, learning new things, personal growth, personal development, confronting their poor, bad choices or habits in their life, and actually making a conscious effort and decision to get better. Isn't that crazy? 97% of people are totally okay with being fat, broke, stressed, struggling in unhappy relationships or lonely or whatever the case is. And I think that's just something that really bothers me, like deep down of, I just can't believe that people are okay with wasting their potential and not actually trying to grow and become better than they were yesterday and make these incremental changes 1% better, and constantly just discovering more things about who they are and what their purpose is, how they can be of more value, of more service. And it's not just about what's in it for you and I individually and for our families, but overall, like, what is the impact of us becoming the better versions of ourselves and actually looking back a year, 3 years, 5 years in the past and being unrecognizable of who we once used to be, how we once used to operate or go through our lives, or what we prioritized or what we thought was important. To me, I feel this duty, this sense of responsibility to not be the same as I was a year ago. I don't want to look back a year ago and be like, my life is exactly the same, and who I was, what I believed, the level of awareness, mindset, skill set, and value overall of who I am as an individual to be the same thing and me just be a year older. I feel like it is such a privilege to continue to be alive, to have air in my lungs, to wake up in the morning, have a new chance at life, a new day to conquer and overcome any obstacles and challenges that might be in our way. And it's just really, really sad that a lot of people out there don't have that same perspective. Now, with that being said, can we make a difference and inspire people with our content, with our message, with our story, with our reach and the power of technology and social media, where we can maybe take some of these individuals who are maybe low confidence, or they had something happen in their life where they don't believe that they're worthy or that they can do it, and start to spark a little bit of hope, a little bit of possibility within themselves where they question things and go, maybe I can, maybe I am worthy, maybe I am someone who can do it. And yes, the answer is we do that every single day. I do that every single day. My community of online business owners and entrepreneurs and leaders all over the world do that every single day. But within that, when you take this decision, you make this decision and you go, look, I want more. It's not because I'm ungrateful. It's not because I'm greedy. It's not because any of those horrible beliefs that people think is what it's about. It's just because we are a constant, never-ending work in progress. You know what I'm saying? And there's an old saying, like, if you're not growing, you're dying. There is no staying the same. You are either declining or increasing. And when it comes to your physical body, for example, if you don't exercise, if you don't strength train, if you don't lift weights, your body is deteriorating at a faster rate than somebody who is utilizing their muscles, who's utilizing all of their limbs, all of their body for all these different types of workouts, upper body, lower body, all the things, and actually training consistently. It makes your body know that, hey, I still need this. I still need these muscles. This is something that I use often, every day, every other day, things like that. Whereas people are sitting around, laying around on the couch, not really actually utilizing their gifts and their energy and their vitality of being the youngest they're ever going to be right now, and actually going outside and going for a run, or playing some kind of sports or lifting weights or doing something with their body. That's just one example. Same thing with the power of our minds, our abilities to be problem solvers and so forth. There's just too many people who take it for granted, and they don't realize what they have until they get really old, they get really sick, life has passed them by, and they just sort of wasted it in a lot of ways, right? So when you make this when you make this conscious decision to not be part of the 97%, there is a dark side to this, which I want to talk about today. And the dark side of this is that you are constantly confronting your own dark side, your own demons, your own limitations, your own excuses, all these negative things that most people just sweep under the rug. They pretend it's not there. They pretend it's not real. They don't actually confront them head on and try to go, why am I doing that? Why am I the way that I am? How can I make these adjustments? How can I be uncomfortable and force myself to do things that are hard, that are challenging, that are difficult to solve and overcome on a regular basis, right? And so first of all, if that's you, which it is, because you're listening to my podcast, and this is for those individuals that are striving to be better every single day, to grow, to hit their goals, to become better than they were a year ago, and so on. So I just want to take a moment and say, like, I see you. I know how hard that is. I know how difficult it can be to do something when you don't feel like it. When there are all of these things in our reality that are just like low-hanging fruit, easy distractions, the quick fix, the instant gratification, the fast food, the junk, all of that is so much easier to give into than it is to get your ass up off the couch, to go for a run, to work out, to read books, to learn, as opposed to just entertain yourself with like the fast-paced social media content or the Netflix series and stuff. And by, just to be clear, I think that there is a space for those things in our lives. I'm not saying, never ever eat like junk food, or never ever watch Netflix, or never go on social media. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that there should be a different emphasis and priority on the ratio of how often you do those things versus improving yourself and improving your skills and getting better. And so I want to talk a little bit about this, because we often idolize and look up to people who have a life that we admire, and we don't see the downside or the dark side of what that journey has actually entailed, how many sacrifices they had to make, how difficult it was to be the leader at the front of the pack who also takes all of the heat when things don't work out. And in my case, in my journey, I've always been someone who leads from the front, right? I'm okay with that. In fact, I thrive in that environment. I want to be the leader, and I want to help other people see their own leadership abilities within themselves as well. But as good as it is when you get a standing ovation, or you get acknowledged for your achievements, or those types of things, that is awesome for sure. There's a dark side to it as well, where if you make a bad judgment call, then you get the finger pointed at you. And I saw this thing a few days back on LeBron James after he got eliminated from this year's playoffs, and he got swept by the Denver Nuggets in 4 games, right? And it was his 20th season, and he's the all-time leading scorer. He's accomplished a great amount of accolades. He's won 4 championships. He's done just incredible things in his career. But the thing that is often overlooked in someone like his case, and he's had it probably worse than a lot of high profile, top athletes in the world, is there was this post on social media that showed some of his interviews from when he was still a kid. He was in high school. He was like 15, 16, 17 years old. And these reporters from these high like Sports Illustrated magazine and these ESPN, like some of the biggest networks and sports magazines and whatnot in the world are interviewing this kid, right? He's like a teenager, of letting him know that there is so much pressure on him to actually become great. And this is at the very, very, very start of his entire career. So you can imagine the whole world basically coined him the chosen one when he was like 15 years old. He was on the cover of Sports Illustrated, the chosen one. Can you imagine the pressure on a global stage to have that on you? Not only that, but they told him to his face that if he didn't become like the greatest of all time, that he would be a disappointment. On his draft day, the crowd was cheering, overrated, 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 when he made a professional choice to actually be traded from the Cleveland Cavaliers over to the Heat. There was a riot in Cleveland. They were burning his jerseys. They were saying he's not loyal. He's the worst person ever. Like, this guy has had so much pressure and so much hatred from fans, from haters across the world. And despite all of that, he has stayed out of trouble. He's never had any incidents with the law, the police, drinking and driving or anything like that. He's been with his high school sweetheart. He's a great dad. He became a dad at like a really young age, all these things. And on top of that, he thrived. He's an excellent basketball player. He's overcome so much. And so the point that I'm saying is, like, a lot of people would be like, oh, LeBron, he's a billionaire and look at him and all these types of things. It's like, there is almost no humans on this earth who could actually endure that amount of pressure, that amount of scrutiny, that amount of hatred and pointing the finger and calling names and all of that, and actually be able to disconnect from that, still show up every single day, train, improve, get better, put in 20 years in the NBA at the highest level, just, physically getting his ass beat, like hacked and pulled and fouled and all of that, and still be a successful individual, a great father, all of that. And the same goes in what we do in business as well. There is so much that is often not talked about: the stress, the worry, the anxiety, the pressure to show up, to continue to inspire people, to, all of these things is like the human behind the leader, the human behind the mentor, the human behind the influencer, the millionaire, whatever label you want to put it, the human of that individual behind the scenes is often not talked about enough. It is not considered, like, how are they feeling? What are some of the challenges that they're going through in their life? Because if you have challenges, which I'm sure you do, we're all human beings, you can imagine that at a bigger scale, with more people looking up to you, more people counting on you, that the pressure, the weight of all of that is just more intense. You know what I'm saying? It's like, we want more money, we want more freedom, we want more ability to travel, to live a great life, all of those things, right? We want the positives of that. But with that also comes more responsibility. It comes with more difficult decisions. It becomes with more glory, but if you make the wrong decision, or just a decision that isn't supported by a large group of people, you can be canceled, just like we've seen in the last few years on social media. Like, people are outspoken, they say, I don't agree with this, and then boom, like the media, conglomerate attacks you, cancels you, defames you, makes up rumors about you, all these types of things. And obviously that could be at the biggest scale out there, but it could also happen on a more micro scale. It could happen within your company, with your community. It often happens within people's families. They get, disowned or labeled as the black sheep. And that's really, really hard for you and I to actually emotionally be able to process it, because when we are very focused on our vision, we're focused on becoming better, we're focused on developing our skills, there's only so much energy that you have to go around. You can't possibly be in a balanced state in your life with your family, with your friends, with your health, with your business, with your community. All of those things can never be in a perfect balance at all times in your life. You are going to go through different seasons, and when your season shifts to being like, okay, in this next 1, 2, 3, 5 years, my main priority is to develop myself and learn myself, set myself free, quit my job, do all of that. During that same window of time, you're going to face the dark side, right? Because there's an equal opposite to everything. So as big as the dream is and the glory, there's also the nightmare that comes with it. The part that often gets left out is that in the earlier stages of your business, as you're making this change, right, as you're leaving your old life behind for your new life, there will be those moments of doubt, fear, stress. Can I do this? Imposter syndrome. Your spouse maybe not seeing the vision or understanding you. And even though they're there for you and they do want what's best for you and they do want to support you, they often cannot maybe see the full path or the full journey. So they'll question it, they'll test you, they'll maybe disagree with you. It might lead to arguments and fights, and then that can throw you off track. And there's just so much that can happen. And then from there, you have to remember that, like, is it worth it? Right? Is it worth it to endure through the darkness to eventually get out to the other side where there is some new standards that are available to you, where some of your previous problems are actually gone forever? And, you've heard the quote, I'm sure, more money, more problems. And a lot of people believe this so much, so deeply, that they don't want more problems. So they automatically shut off the abundance of more money as well, because they're like, no. I already have plenty of problems. I don't need more problems. And I definitely don't want more money, which equals more problems. And this is another one of these like limiting beliefs that society, the 97% out there, has accepted as a cop-out excuse. They're like, oh, well, if that's the case, like, I might as well not even try. I might as well not even bother, right? And that's where most people try to give themselves this excuse that they think is believable. And because 97% of the population is doing the exact same thing, they get along great. They go, of course you're not going to try. Me neither. Hey, let's fucking waste our life together, right? And it turns into this thing that's like socially acceptable. So when the 3% who's still hanging out with those individuals decides to make that leap of faith or go all in on their dreams or start that side hustle, of course you're going to be the asshole in the group from their point of view, because you are just showing them this mirror reflection of who they are not willing to become, the work that they're not willing to do. And so all of a sudden you are the asshole because you're kind of giving them this reality check, but they don't want to accept it. So often that is why friendships fall apart. Certain relationships don't make it. You maybe stop seeing certain family members as often because you are breaking free, quite literally. But the point that I'm really getting at here is, like, in my journey, there's been so many moments of questioning whether or not the payoff will be worth the reward. But here's the thing that I'm talking about when it's like more money, more problems, is it's not more problems. It's just bigger, more elevated, more sophisticated, higher level thinking problems. Problems will never go away. This is important for all of you listening to understand. If your reason for trying to be successful in your business, to create freedom, to create more income, is that you want to attain a life of no problems, then it is a life that you probably would not enjoy if you had it. Because with no problems comes mundane, comes boring, you're uninspired, there's no reason to really get up and do anything. there's actually a lot of joy that we experience from growth. And the growth actually comes from breaking through those obstacles and challenges and solving those problems. So if you embrace it and you actually look forward to it and go, hey man, I love problems. I'm a professional problem solver. You know what? Sometimes these problems can give me a headache. Sometimes these problems are stressful. Sometimes these problems take longer to figure out and solve than I would like them to. But at the end of the day, I still love the fact that I'm able to, that I'm capable, that I have the mental capacity to think, to brainstorm, to problem solve, to ask for help, which is a really big struggle for a lot of people. Like, man, if you need some help, ask, right? That's one of the beautiful things about being a mentor and a coach myself is that at the end of the day, when somebody books a call with my team and they fill out an application to be mentored and coached by me, it is a form of them having the awareness to ask for help. And I know it doesn't sound like that because, we're like, fill out an application, book a free call, whatever. But it is literally you sitting there with your problems and challenges in your business and asking yourself, man, I've been trying to crack the code. I've been trying to figure this thing out. I'm not able to solve it. What can I do? And then you have the thought, I need to ask for help. I need a mentor and coach to guide me. And then that's often why people are booking a call with me and my team. And then what do I do as a coach and mentor is I help you think. I help you see things differently, your problems with a new set of eyes, and I help you problem solve. We do it together. We kind of go back and forth a little bit, and then all of a sudden you have the idea, you have the shift, and then you solve your problem and have the breakthrough. And so for me, I'm like, if I think about my old problems that I used to have, right? It was things like, how am I going to afford to pay for this and this and this? It was a lot of stress. It was like debt collectors calling, me not being able to afford like healthy food, me not being able to have like the tools that I needed for just letting my skills shine, right? Like in an online business, for example, we need tools, right? We need equipment. We need a laptop. We need a smartphone. We need Wi-Fi. We need cameras. We don't always need to have the most expensive gear or the latest technology or whatever the case is when we're getting started. But as you progress through your business career, as your income starts to grow, you start to compete in a way with other people who are also influencers, social media marketers, online, whatever. And if you're not upgrading your equipment, if you don't have the latest phone with the latest video camera and all of those things, you're just not really playing the game in a way that you're going to win, right? Like if you're in a car race and you show up to the Indy 500 and you're driving a Toyota Prius, and this other guy shows up in a brand new Lamborghini, jacked up engine, fully loaded, the whole shebang. How the fuck are you going to win that race? It's just not going to work. So in the beginning, you can make do with whatever you got, right? It's okay to get yourself to a position where you're like, cool, I'm making some money now. I'm going to reinvest into the tools. So back to the point is that the problems that I used to have were basic fundamental issues and problems on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It was like, how do I put food on the table? How do I pay my rent so I have a roof over my head? It was very, very basic things. Then as I started to earn more money, those problems went away forever. I never have to worry about that. But right now in my life, I got different problems, and it's like managing multiple projects at the same time, prioritizing what's more important than something else. I'm going to be going out of town for 2 weeks to Bali in New Zealand, coming up here, literally leaving in the next couple of days. And so the problems are like, okay, how do I put myself in multiple places at the same time? Because I want to be present when I'm away on my trip, but I also want to be there for my family as they need me. I want to make sure my podcast keeps growing. I want to make sure that this is happening. We're building a villa in Mexico. There's all these projects that you're kind of juggling, and that causes stress. That causes overwhelm and anxiety. And there's this like dark side to it as well, where you're feeling like, I don't know if I can manage all of this. You know what I'm saying? But as you learn how to, you expand what's possible for yourself. And all of a sudden, what once seemed impossible, like having 10 projects on the go, all of a sudden becomes a new baseline. Like, oh yeah, it's easy. I know exactly how to project manage and have teams and people supporting me and so on. So ultimately, the real thing that I wanted to talk about here is that no matter what you want in life, there's always going to be a pay that you have to make. And if you're not willing to embrace that difficulty, the dark side, the pain, the agony, the frustration of like, why isn't this working for me? Why am I still stuck? Why am I not making more money? Why am I not at this rank in my business? Why haven't I been able to quit my job? You're really like putting yourself in this pressure cooker on purpose. You know what I mean? That's the part that 97% of people aren't willing to do, because they're like, why would I constantly criticize myself and try to improve and try to embrace this like uncomfortable part of who I am when I can just fucking not do any of that and just barely exist, barely get by, focus on survival rather than thriving. And this is the thing that I want you to remember is like, as you're enduring this pain, you wake up after a tough day, right? Like maybe you had a really tough day or a tough week and things aren't really working and clicking and coming together for you. And you're like, man, I just want to burn this all down, right? I just want to quit. I just want to throw it away. I want life to be easy again. I want to have no worries, man. I want to have no stress, man, right? It's easy for us to fall into that trap of thinking that's what we want. But if you do give in to that, and you do say, all right, cool, this is all waste of my time. Let me just kind of sit around on the couch. Let me do this. Let me do that. You will actually create more pain for yourself in the future. And I think that we need to realize that the game of life doesn't ever stop. It just evolves. The problems don't stop. They just evolve. The income doesn't necessarily solve everything, but it solves a lot of things. And then as you have more income, you'll run into bigger, more evolved problems. And then you'll notice like, man, if I can pay money to make this problem go away, which is like 95% of problems that we're going to run into in life can be solved with money. And only broke people will try to convince you that's not true. That's the truth. So here's the kicker is like 95% of the problems that we have can be solved with money. But at the exact same time, a lot of our happiness, a lot of our fulfillment, a lot of our joy that we need to consciously create in our lives, in our relationships with our spouse, with our children, also simultaneously have nothing to do with money. And so people get this twisted all the time. They go, oh, well, if 95% of problems get solved with money, that means that I could just kind of buy love, buy joy, buy happiness. I could just pay for it. I can get gifts. I can do this and just buy, money for everything. It's like, that's actually not true. There's a fine line between solving problems with money, which is most of them that, you can hire someone or you can just delegate it or outsource it or eliminate it or those kinds of things, which mostly requires money for you to be able to do that. And then at the exact same time, it's like, if you can remove all the money out of the equation, what are you doing to have more joy, happiness, fulfillment outside of that? And if you're able to balance between these two realities simultaneously, then you become one of these very rare individuals on planet Earth that have a lot of money, they have a lot of freedom, they have great health, and they're fulfilled, and they're happy, and they're smiling and grateful about everything that's in their life because they're able to discern and disconnect those two realities instead of just being defined by, I'm rich, I'm wealthy, I'm free, and that's good enough, and that should make everything else in my life just automatically work. That's not the truth. So, for me, I felt like really inspired to share this message with you guys that if it's hard, if it's difficult, if you're feeling like you're looking in the mirror and seeing this like darker shadow side of your life, and it's good to lean into that. It's good to embrace that, because if you try to ignore it, if you try to pretend that side of you doesn't exist, then you are also really doing yourself a disservice to create the diamond life that you're looking to create, because it comes with the territory. And when people like really knew what guys like LeBron James have done to create the level and pinnacle of success that he's created, not just in the NBA as a basketball player, but in all areas of his life, most people, if they knew the full story, they'd go, you know what? I'm good. I don't want his life, right? And it's similar in my life too. Is like, my life is amazing. It's incredible. I wouldn't trade it with anybody else in the world. I'm truly fulfilled and happy. But on my journey to like get to where I am, there's been so many obstacles and demons like I had to face, and I still have some now. I'm definitely not done facing those struggles. I just recently had a really heated, like deep disagreement with my wife about a couple of things too, because we didn't see things eye to eye. And, she brought up a couple of things for me where she's like, look, I've had to make a lot of sacrifices to have this life with you. Excuse me, which is totally true. And when someone in the relationship is building the business, or they're the face of the brand, or they're the ones kind of outspoken, and in some relationships like mine with my wife, she doesn't want to do the business stuff. She doesn't want to be on social media very much, like talking, promoting, selling, marketing, leading, none of that stuff. It's not her personality. But we're still together in partnership and in union, and therefore we have different perspectives on things, what are important, what matters, why it matters, different beliefs, different values, even though they do come together and intersect into a similar path that we both want to be on. Sometimes you need to check in and realize, like, the other person's point of view and what they think is happening, what they think is going on, or what they see is drastically different than what you think is happening. And there's usually a breakdown in communication. And, we talked about it, we resolved it, we got back on the same page. It was amazing. But it just reminds me of, like, over the years, there's been betrayal, there's been backstabbing, there's been people spreading rumors and lies because they're jealous and envious of what you're building, what you're creating, what you're trying so hard to get to. And then unknowingly, totally unconsciously, there's actually a collateral damage effect where different people start to see you differently, believe things about you. They start to create these stories like, oh, you think you're better than us because you make more money than us? Or, oh, you think you're so cool because you travel around the world and do this and that. And you're just kind of like, when you hear some of this stuff, you're like, what? No. What the fuck are you saying? But it comes with the territory, right? So if you're not willing to have certain individuals in your life not understand you, and you feel misunderstood on a regular basis, then you're most likely not going to have what it takes to endure that journey to where you want to go and what you want to create in your life, because it does come, it's a package deal. And I think that if you can just make peace with that and you can accept that, then it's just going to be so much easier as you go through it, because you can kind of smile and go, all right, this is me paying my dues. This is me paying my price. And others in those situations will stop, they'll retreat, they'll give up, they'll go back to being part of the 97% and go, you know what? I'm just not willing to do what it takes. And you and I are going to go, you know what? It's a temporary pain. It's a temporary situation. And when I look back on, like, the last 10, 15 years of my life, I'd probably say maybe 10% of the time would be considered the dark side of the overall journey. You know what I mean? But when you're in it, man, that 24 hours, that 48 hours, or sometimes it could be longer, when you feel like you're in the darkness and it's so hard and you're like being buried alive and choking because it's just overwhelming, it's too much for you to handle. It feels like it's never going to stop, and it's like permanent, but it is temporary. And when you can understand that and still fight through it and still break through and go through that, when you get through the other side, you're like, oh man, I've leveled up, I've earned this. And every single successful person, however you want to define success, is irrelevant. But every single person that you see in a successful marriage, they're happy, they've been together a long time, they understand each other. The only way that they are as close as they are, and soulmates and in love and all of that, is by going through the flames together as a couple and facing the music, like facing their problems and figuring it out and working it out and loving each other despite their differences and all that stuff. Nobody just has a beautiful life, a beautiful diamond life, a beautiful relationship without having that forging of steel through the fire. It's a must. It's a prerequisite. You know what I'm saying? Same thing with wealth. Same thing with freedom. Same thing with money. Is like, nobody has ever had that type of level of experience in this life without enduring a very difficult, dark journey along the way in different sort of seasons and different stages. And every new level has a new devil. Every new level is an evolved version of who you need to become. And when you embrace this and you say to yourself, look, I'm willing to go through life embracing the darkness because I know that the light is so beautiful that it's worth it. And ultimately, at the end of the day, at the end of my life, I will spend more time in the light, in the glory, in the success, in the freedom than I ever will in the darkness. So don't let those dark days be the days that you give up, the days that you give up and quit, because it will be silly for you to do that. All right, my friends, thank you for listening. And I look forward to you sharing this and letting us know, giving us some awesome feedback on the podcast, on our social media channels, and sharing this with your friends. Thank you so much for your love and support. We're like first 3 months in with this podcast, and it's a lot of fun. So let me know on social media. Let me know in the comments of our posts what was your favorite part of this episode and what value you received, and embrace the darkness, my friends. It's all going to be worth it. All right, see you in the next one. Cheers.